Hey, I'm RC and this is another episode of How It's Made in Raining Chain. In this video I'll be covering how the game is structured and compiled. So for those who did not know, Raining Chain is a MMORPG I'm currently developing. You can try out the game at rainingchain.com. So Raining Chain is written in TypeScript, which is a language really similar to JavaScript. If you want to get started with TypeScript, you can check out the link in the description to go check out a video I made about it. So this is the root folder of the game. So as you can see, there is the node-module folder, which contains all the third-party libraries I'm using. There's also my package.json and my app.js, which is the entry point of the game. So when I want to start a server, I start this file, and this file will call all the other ones. There's also Git, so with version control. This is a tool that allows you to see what changes have been made over time. So I can know exactly what I did, let's say 2 months ago. So what are the files that got changed? So it's pretty handy, and it's also what Heroku uses in order to make change on the server. So Heroku is a host that hosts the Raining Chain game. So the code of Raining Chain is split in 3 main places. There is the server folder, which contains everything that the server has access to, but the client does not have access to. And most of it is about the quest, so I don't want people to be able to see the content and the logic of quests, so game content. There's also things like database, performance, preset, shops, stuff like that that the client is simply not supposed to know about. After that, there's the actual client folder. So this is everything that the client has access to. So the server, even though it has access to those files, it should not read it technically. So it's mostly about rendering, so lots of stuff about rendering, and also the interface, lots of stuff about the interface. And finally, there's a folder called shared, which contains all the code shared by the server and the client. So most of the code of Raining Chain is here. So everything that is not security sensitive is in that. So there's everything about the actors, everything about item management, pets, and stats, equipment. All of that is in the shared folder. So one thing you may have noticed is that all my files have 3 copies. There's the TS file, the js.map file, and the JS file. So TS file is for TypeScript. This is the code I've actually written myself, and that's the logic. The problem with TypeScript is that browsers are not able to read TypeScript directly. So you need to take the TypeScript and compile it into a normal JavaScript code, and then browsers will be able to use it. To do the compilation, I use tsc-w. So this, what it does is that whenever there's a change with one of the files, it will automatically compile it into a JavaScript file. It's pretty convenient. And another thing that's important is the JS map file. So this does the connection between the two. Because let's say that there's an error at line 50. So over here, what I would like to know is that what is the code I've actually written, because this is not what I've written, this is the compiled version. So the js.map file, what it will do is it will convert this line, so like line 50 in the compiled JavaScript, into line 10 in the TypeScript. So it will tell me that there's an error on this line rather than over here. So it's pretty handy. Now with the current state of the project with all the JavaScript files generated, I can simply go in any HTML file and write this. So script source equals something, and this will load the file in the browser. Now if I want to load a file on the server, I need to use this syntax instead. It's called required, and then I put the file. Now it's not really convenient to have 2 different ways to do that, and this way is really not convenient because this needs to be in the HTML. It's like global stuff. So I came up with my own system. Now I do not really recommend to use it. Back when I started the project, there was not really a common way to do loading module. Even now it's pretty separated. There's many different ways. There's the official way in TypeScript is using the import, and this is what I recommend to use if you're starting a new project, but that's not what I'm using. Okay, so that's pretty much how it works in Raining Chain. So let's say I have the module ability and I need to load other module. I'm going to write this over here. So load bullet model, actor model, stripe model, and chain model. Then I need to put that line here in order to actually do the assignment. But by magic, it's going to load the module. I won't really go too much into the detail. I'm probably going to make an entire video about this. But like I said, don't really recommend you to use this. You can simply use the import in TypeScript and it's a lot cleaner. But in Raining Chain, I add some, like the initialization of the server is kind of tricky. There's many different dependencies between the modules that need to be respected, a right order. So I made my own thing, but that's probably not the best idea ever. Now, one thing when working with code shared by the server and the client is that there are a couple things that are different. The main difference between the two is the export variable. So on the server, export is what you use in order to export a module, but on the browser, this variable does not exist. So the little hack I do is I do something similar to export equal window, and at the top over here, record module, I simply return the window. So every module that have been loaded will be over here. So one limitation is that every module must have a different name, otherwise none of this works. So it's not as flexible as the server, but it's a quick way to do it. Obviously, like this is a really simplification of the system I'm actually using, but in essence, this is the idea. Now, sometimes there are code that needs to be a little bit different if you're on the server or if you're on the client. So in order to address those tiny modifications, I have a global variable called server. And server, on the server, it's true, and on the client, it's false. So it's very handy. I don't really have any example over here. But for example, get description. On the server, I don't want this function to be called, so I simply return immediately an empty string. But on the client needs to know the full description, so it will actually compute the ability description overall. So this is pretty handy, and I recommend to do that. And I have also another variable called Notjitsu. And that was back in the days when my game was hosted on Notjitsu. So Notjitsu, the variable indicates whether I'm on the development server or if I'm on the real server, so the production server. So there's a few things that are different. For example, the database. So if I'm on the development, I want to log into my local database. But if I'm on the real server, I want to load my real database with the real data of all the players. So another very big difference between when I'm developing, so on my own computer, and when I'm on the production server, so when the game can be played by other players. So one of the other big difference is the way the files are handled. So as you can see right now, there's all the JavaScript files, one for each module. So this is very handy for debugging and all of that, but I don't want people to have access to those files. It's too easy for someone to just go take all the source code of the game and make a copy of the game. So yeah, they don't have access to the code on the server, but like I said, most of the game code is shared, so you could still like 80% of the game, which is not really a good thing, and it makes easier for people to hack into the game and stuff like that. So what I do is I take all those JS files, so all the JavaScript files in the entire shared folder is converted into one single file called client.min.js. So this file over here contains all the codes of all the files, and all the spacing and all of that is removed. So it's like one super dense code, which is really hard to read and edit. That's the main purpose of this. So this over here is called code minification. So it's putting many different files into one and running algorithms in order to decrease its size. So in order to do that, I'm using the library Gulp, which is a library for task automatization. So with Gulp, I can concat files, for example, Gulp concat. Then I can uglify, so minify all the files with Gulp uglify. And there's a bunch of different stuff you can do. But then that's the two main things I'm using. And I can also run validation, so make sure that there's no dead code and there's no stuff with errors. So yeah. So I guess that will be pretty much it about this video. So I know I've done really quickly over different topics. My goal was simply to do an overview of how things works. And if there's a specific topic you want me to talk about more, simply tell me in the comment section. So I could make an entire video about task automatization with Gulp. I could make an entire video about module loading, and I could make an entire video about how to minify your code and reduce the number of files needed. So for example, I do it for the JavaScript files like I've showed here, but I also do it for images. So all the images in Raining Chain are all compiled into one. That looks something like this. And I'm also doing this for CSS. So there's still many topics I could cover, so simply tell me in the comment section what you want me to cover next. So thanks a lot for watching, and see ya!